Hey, 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 everybody. Here we are at the beach still, loving life at the beach with all the dogs and the seagulls and the eagles. Gonna do hips today. Today's series is about hips. We've had several requests actually, and hips is a big one for us Westerners because we don't do a lot of like sitting cross-legged, and I was talking to my husband about this. We don't do a lot of sitting cross-legged in our culture, sitting on the floor, like it's not part of what we do. We don't do a lot of kneeling or squatting, right? And so what we don't do, we lose, right? Use it or lose it. And when we do a lot of sitting in chairs and cars and not a lot of squatting and not a lot of sitting cross-legged, we lose a lot of our hip mobility. And that can cause back pain. It can cause postural problems. It can cause all kinds of not fun stuff. So hips is our focus today. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable seat, and you could be sitting up on a blanket fold here. I haven't brought anything with me out to the beach because there's a lot to carry as it is, but a blanket fold, a bolster, something to get the hips up so that your knees are at the same level as your hip crest, your iliac crest, your hip bone. You want them at the same level as that or below. So if your hips are tight and you sit cross-legged on the ground, what you'll find is you're one of these where the knees are up here and you feel like you're falling backwards, right? And that's not comfortable because you're constantly tense. So sit up on something. Take a moment and go get something to sit up on. Also, you can check out the B series, how to sit, right? If you want a little bit more introspection on sitting properly in yoga. So we're just going to find a comfortable seat. You can either put one foot in front of the other, or you can cross your legs, whatever feels good. And we'll just take a moment to center here. So close our eyes. You can rest the hands on the knees. And start to notice your breath. Now, notice your natural flow of breath as you're inhaling and exhaling. And also start to notice the little spaces between each inhale and each exhale. It's a little moment where the breath kind of hangs in the air before it changes direction. Just notice that little space between each inhale and exhale. And then we're just going to take a couple shoulder rolls here. So if there's any tightness in the shoulders, just squeezing to the ears and rolling them back and down. Just squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. And then we're going to take the left leg out in front. So the right foot can be tucked in. Flex your left foot that's in front. So draw the toes towards the knee. And then we're going to slowly start to fold forward. Now, for some of us, folding forward might not look like you're going very far, and that's okay. What you're looking for is to feel this in the outer hip. Yeah. So you want to flex the foot to protect the knee. Pull especially the pinky side of the foot up to the knee. And just softly bend forward until you feel that bit of a stretch in the outer left hip. I'm just going to take 2 ha breaths into that stretch. So big breath in through the nose. Exhale a sigh right into this area just by thinking about it. One more big breath in through the nose. Big sigh. And then we come all the way up and we'll change sides. So we're stretching this hip cold, right? Before even warming it up. That's sort of a yin style move. So again, flex the foot because that protects the knee so we can target the hip. If the foot is sickled, say it's doing this pulls on the knee. So we activate here to keep this stable so that the hip is the spot that gets it here. So then we're going to fold forward until we feel that little bit of stretch in this outer hip, and then take 2 long ha breaths. So you inhale nose, exhale mouth. Breathing right into that right outer hip. Beautiful. Nice job. And then we'll come all the way back up. Okay, so we're going to focus on getting a little bit of warmth and movement through that hip. And this is just sort of a quick and dirty hip sequence. It's all hips. So it's not part of a balance sequence. It's just to target the hips. So we're going to find tabletop here. Check your wrists are as wide as your shoulders. Spread your fingers nice and wide. And maybe the pinkies even hang off the edge of the mat. right? This is arbitrary. The distance, the width of your mat is cut in the factory, and it has nothing to do with your size or height at all. So bring the knees right under the hips. And then as you inhale, bring your right knee up, flex your foot. As you exhale, bring it back and down, drawing a big circle. And then as you inhale, bring it forward and up. As you exhale, down and back and down. You need to inhale forward and up. Exhale back and down. And we'll change direction. So you're inhaling up, exhaling forward and down. So just drawing a big circle in the air with that hip. Imagine you've got a pencil taped to the outside of the knee, and you're drawing a circle in the air with that. And generally you're inhaling as you go up, exhaling as you go down. Just doing a couple of those with your breath. Keep waiting for the dog visitors to join me. And then we'll rest in tabletop and just take a moment and feel left to right. The right side might feel warm, might feel like there's some energy in there. And then we'll change sides. So this left knee, bringing it up to the side. Inhaling it back and down. Exhaling it up and back. Inhaling it down and forward. And again, it just doesn't matter where you breathe, really. It's just breathing in a way that feels natural. And there's one breath for one movement and another breath for the next movement. And what you might notice is it might be a little bit choppy, like the movement might feel a bit jerky. That will smooth out over time. If your wrists are tender, you can always modify it and bring the elbows down, yeah? Take the pressure off the wrists. So change direction, go around the other way. I see a lady with 3 dogs and she's totally wrangling them so that they don't crash our yoga party. Little did she know I love dogs. All right, so then we're going to do some hip circles. And again, this can be on elbows or forearms if you have tender wrists, or hands underneath the shoulder. And if you press the fingertips down, it takes pressure off of the wrists. And then we'll circle the hips around to the side and forward, to the side and back. You could be inhaling forward, exhaling back. You could be forearms on the ground if it feels better. And then change the direction, go around the other way, inhaling forward, exhaling to the side and back. This is also increasing mobility in the shoulders as well. And again, just doing what feels good for you. Okay. Now we're going to move into a wide-kneed puppy pose, or wide-kneed child's pose. The idea with this one is an inner hip stretch. And the idea is to take the knees as wide apart as they'll go. So if you're on the hard floor, you might want to fold a blanket up and put it underneath both knees, so that when you take your knees really, really wide, there's something underneath that's loving them up. And the big toes are pointing towards each other behind you. Reach your arms forward, rest your forehead on the ground. And the idea again is to take the knees as wide as they'll go until you feel it in the inner hip, inner groin. And then we're just going to use the breath here. So you're inhaling through nose, exhaling through mouth, and we'll stay for 5 rounds. And you can stay for longer if you want to. You can take the knees wider if you want to. Inhaling nose, exhaling mouth. Hi, buddy. Hi, come. Oh, he's awesome. Friendly giant. Okay, so we're going to come all the way out of our wide-kneed child's pose, come back to tabletop, and we'll come into a lunge. And, let's come into a lizard pose. So you can take your right foot over to the right side of the mat. Keep your left hand and your right hand on the floor for now. So the thing about hips is you stretch them in all directions, the front of the hip, the back of the hip, the hamstring, the quad, the outer hip, the inner hip, all of these things, right? So you're going to step your toes up so that they're in line with your fingers, and then check that your front knee is right over your front ankle. And essentially, you could slide your back knee back as far as you want to, getting deeper into the pose if you want to. But again, listen to your body. And I've got the back toes curled under to keep that back foot in alignment. And you can stay here. You can move a little side to side. You even could come down to elbows if that's available, but it might not be. And this is just fine, exactly where you are here. And just it sometimes feels good to take a little bit of movement side to side, some deep breath here. I love dogs. It's such a great place to hang out. Good, good, good. And then we're going to change sides and bring the right foot back. Bring the left foot forward to the outside of the mat. So again, this is lizard pose. It's a variation of the lunge. And we're going to slide the back knee back. Make sure the front knee is over the front ankle or on the safe side. And then again, you could be on the hands or on the forearms and maybe shifting the weight a little side to side. Just see how it feels. Nice long deep breaths. Feel free to exhale out the mouth here to help that psoas release. So the psoas muscle is the big muscle that attaches the thigh bone to the spine, and it runs through the hip. And it gets tight here in the front, the hip flexor, if we do a lot of sitting or even if we do a lot of running or biking. And it can really impede our ability to relax. So just taking a few deep breaths here. We can also hold back our sleep too if it's tight. It'll make us feel restless in bed, like we can't settle in, the body can't get comfortable. It's a good one to stretch out right before bedtime. I'm a huge proponent of that. So I'm going to slide this foot back. And let's come into, I want to do pigeon pose, but instead of pigeon, you might do laying on your back for square. But I'll show pigeon here in this one. Actually, let's do four square. We'll come to seated. We'll do four square at the end. So let's go ahead and take the legs wide. I'm changing gears as we're doing this. Take the feet as wide as they go, and then bring them in a little smidge. Good. We're going to flex the feet so the toes are pointing up. Here comes the sun. You're going to lift the hip and widen the sit bones. So you're pulling the flesh away from the sit bones so that the pelvis can tip forward more. And then just bring your fingertips behind, on fingertips behind your back, and roll the shoulders open. Lift the chest, lift the heart, smile on the front body. Hello, sun. And we're also going to press the thighs down so these get fired up as well. Keep that and then start to guide forward with the heart. So keep pressing the thighs down so this is active. It gives you a solid support. You can even use your fingers to press the mat down to lift the chest and the heart and the head away from the pelvis. So we're lengthening and then drawing the heart forward. So just be aware that when you're moving the heart forward, the neck stays in line with the rest of the spine, rather than often what happens when we try to go forward, we just curl up at the top here, but nothing's actually changing down here. So think about this part staying in alignment with the rest of the spine and the action coming from this part. So you're leaning forward, pressing the thighs, and just taking a couple of breaths here. You can shift the hands forward if you need to. Just wherever you're feeling that, taking a couple of deep breaths right into that spot. It's such a good stretch actually for the nerve that runs all the way down the inside of the leg. And this used to be one that was really, really tight for me. And it took a long time actually for it to turn into that from this like, ow, 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 oh. All right, so then we're gonna bend the knees. You can help them with the hand if you want and walk the feet in. We'll come into cobbler's pose or butterfly legs. So again, this is another one if the hips are tight that the knees will feel quite high. So you can always sit on a blanket fold, something that's firm like a cotton or a wool blanket that gives you a little bit of a lift underneath the tailbone will make this a lot more accessible, especially if you find that your knees are super high. And then again, we're going to start with the fingertips behind. Press your feet together, so pushing the feet in and thinking about your inner thighs going apart. So feet press in, inner thighs move away from each other, and then we're just going to lift the chest here and take some big bright breaths into the front body. Lots of oxygen, lots of prana. One more big, big inhale here, lifting the heart, pressing the feet together. Keep breathing here. If you want to go deeper, you might start to lean forward again with the heart. Same principle with the wide legs that we just did, where the heart is guiding forward, the shoulders stay back, so there's not a lot of curling in here. Even if your pose is here, the heart open, it's more beneficial to keep that front body open so that you've got space for the breath. Because when our body closes off here, crunches in, all of this compresses. It's really hard to take deep, deep inhales. Okay. So then we're going to come into a sleeping animal pose. You're going to bring your left foot, actually let's do opposite. So your right foot to touch the left knee and the toes overhang just a little bit. So this is an alternative to pigeon pose, which is a little bit stronger. Right foot, toes overhang a couple of inches, and the bottom of your foot is touching the top of your thigh there. Now take a look at your right knee, and you're going to center your knee, or line your knee up with the center of your chest, right? So if you think about the direction that your chest is facing, when you fold forward, it's going to line up right in the middle of the chest your knee is. So if you're over here, this is a different kind of a stretch. If you're over here, this is a different kind of a stretch. What we're looking for is this alignment here. So when you fold over the right knee, you might right away feel a big stretch in the right hip, or you might feel next to nothing. It kind of just depends on your anatomy and how your hips are. If you're not feeling any stretch at all, you could try, if you're feeling a stretch, great, breathe into that. If you're not feeling anything at all, try bringing that foot forward away from the knee, and then try bringing your back foot out as well. And what we're going to do is come into deer pose. So this is a little stronger. You want a right angle at your front foot, right angle at your right knee, front knee, same in the back, right angles. So think about squares at all the joints. And then here you're going to fold over the front shin. Now this is a little stronger, deer pose. And then it's all about the breath. So you're exhaling through the mouth. And again, if that's too strong, if you got something from this, then you're good here. You can just be here. And again, if you feel like you can't breathe, if that's too much compression in the belly there, just go to where it feels comfortable so that you can still comfortably breathe. And you can always roll onto your back and do 4 square or thread the needle instead to get that outer hip stretch. Alright, so let's try the other side. So coming all the way up, and we're going to shift. Sometimes in the middle of that, it feels good to do a couple of windshield wipers just to get some internal, external rotation. You can go ahead and switch sides. So this time bringing the left foot on top of the right knee with the toes just overhanging a little. And lining the center of the knee up with the center of the chest and just folding forward there. So again, check in if that doesn't give you a stretch in your outer left hip. If there's like, nothing there. If there is a stretch, you can stay there. If there isn't, you can go ahead and come up and find deer pose instead. I'm trying to fit on my blanket. So many beautiful dogs here. So if you're doing deer pose, make sure you're flexing your front foot, flexing your back foot. The front shin is parallel to the back thigh. Knees have right angles, 90-degree angles. Just checking all of that and then folding forward. Everything's like a box shape or square. And when you're folding forward in deer pose, the more you move towards your foot, the bigger the stretch is, right? So you never want to bounce in the poses. You just want to find your edge where you feel a little bit of sensation and then use your breath there. So you're inhaling and exhaling. And for these releases, exhaling out the mouth can be really good. And you can hold these as long as you want to. I'm just doing little holds, but if something feels good to you, you can totally stay there longer, especially with hips. Hips are giving us that sort of that deep stretch feeling, like it's not a sharp pain. It's not like in your knees or your low back. It's like kind of a yummy feeling, that dull sort of stretching feeling. So let's go ahead and come onto our backs. going to work on a little bit of a hamstring stretch here, the back of the hip. So we go ahead and stretch your right leg up towards the ceiling or the sky, and then flex your right foot. And then we'll go ahead and slide. The left leg can stay bent. We're going to slide the hands up to wherever they'll go on the leg. Now you can also use a strap for this if you have a belt. Just put the belt across the ball of the foot and then hold each end of the strap with the hands. You're pressing up through the heel and pulling the toes down. But if you're using your hands, then your leg might be here, and that's your hamstring stretch. That's why it's nice to have a strap, because it's easier to reach. But if your leg comes quite a long ways up, then you can sometimes grab onto the calf or the ankle. Now the key here is to keep the right hip rooted down. It's going to want to lift up to get away from the hamstring stretch. And hamstrings love, so keep that right hip rooted heavy down. Hamstrings love honeybee here. So if you're using a strap, getting that set up. If you're using hands on the leg here, really think about spreading the toes and pressing up through the heel. So like kind of like you're trying to touch the ceiling with your heel. And we'll do one hum of honeybee. So teeth apart slightly. Take a big breath in. Ooh, that sun. Humming. And you can stay there longer if you want, especially if you have tight hamstrings. They can be quite stubborn and they take time to release, and that's really the only secret is time, and honeybee helps. So we're going to cross the right ankle on top of the left knee and come into four square here. And you could, sometimes it's called thread the needle, you could interlace the fingers behind the left thigh or on top of the left shin. You could even leave that left foot on the floor if that's too strong, and just gently press this right knee forward. And take a couple of breaths there. Good. And then we're going to come into a little bit of a different sort of twist here. With that right ankle still on top of the left knee, if you're interlacing, just put the left foot back down on the ground. And then let the knees roll over to the left side. The right foot is going to land flat on the floor. Yeah, with your right knee poking up. And you're going to reach this left hand to hold the ankle of the right foot. So the right foot is flat on the floor, the right knee is poking up. And you can kind of tuck the shoulders under the back and let the back arch a little bit. And if that doesn't work for you, you can just not grab the foot. You can come into the sort of twist version of that where the knees move down and stretching the arms out to the sides if you like. And if you're doing the version where you're grabbing the ankle and the foot's flat, what you can do is press the knees, the right knee, it's poking up, press it forward towards the foot of your mat, towards the feet or towards the other knee. And you'll feel kind of an interesting pull in this outer right hip. Yeah, it's a different kind of a stretch here. It gets into another little nook and cranny. Just remember to breathe into that. Nice long inhales. I quite like this version. This little extra stretch in the hip is a little bit different. So you're going to come back to center, uncross the legs. We'll change sides, bring the left ankle on top of right knee. And again, choose here what feels best. Maybe it's just right foot on the floor and you're pressing the left knee forward with the hand and breathing into that. Remember to flex this left foot so that the knee is aligned. And if you can take it deeper, you can. You can interlace the fingers there. Try to relax through the shoulders and the jaw. Take a few breaths. We're going to do the hamstring stretch on this side too. Just giving it a moment here. Whew, the sun is coming right out, shining. Great thing about Tofino is it can get really sunny and really gorgeous, but the water is still ice cold. Getting in it is quite adventure. Good. So we can release on this side, and then we'll stretch this left leg up, and then holding behind the leg, maybe flex the foot, spread the toes. If you have a strap or belt, maybe using that, or sliding the hands up. And you want to find just where your first sort of resistance is, like where the first edge is, where you first start to feel it, and then breathe into that spot and give it time. Give it at least a minute. they say 90 seconds minimum on these types of stretches before they start to release. And the trick is just to hang out there and breathe. We can do a honeybee here if you want. So big breath in, teeth apart. Remember to keep the hip heavy in the hip socket. Don't let it lift up. Ooh la la. I actually find if I don't do my yoga practice, I start to develop sciatica up the back of this left leg, especially if I do a lot of driving. So it's interesting to see how much your yoga practice, just a little bit every day, actually helps to maintain things to a certain equilibrium and balance. It's only when you don't do anything then you start to realize that these problems start to crop up. So let's release that, and we'll take that left ankle back on top of the right knee because we're going to come into that twist. So flex that left foot, pull the pinky edge towards the knee, and then roll the knees over to the right side. You can even grab onto the ankle with your right hand before you roll over if you want to. So it's your left foot that's flat on the floor, your left knee that's poking up, and your right hand that's wrapped around the top of the ankle. And then the left knee is pressing a little bit towards the foot of the mat. And you're breathing into this area here where you're getting that little bit of stretch. Nice long deep breath. Remember not to push too hard. You just want to feel a little bit of sensation that you can breathe into. That's the magic ticket right there. And then just give it a little bit of time. Yoga is one of those things that really teaches us a lot of patience. In the beginning there's things we can't do, and then one day you're doing something that you never thought was possible for you, and it may have taken months, weeks, months, maybe even years to get there. So it's important to be patient with the process. Just take your time. And then we're going to gently release. You can take a short little shavasana here if you like. Another great hip stretch if you want to throw one more in before shavasana, and feel free to go right into shavasana if you want to, is either baby happy baby or full happy baby. So baby happy baby is the knees wide and you're wrapping the hands around the insides of the knees and around the tops of the shins. And then just relaxing the arms, relaxing the shoulders and breathing. You'll feel a little gentle pull in the groin. It can be quite nice. And of course the full version, you're reaching up and grabbing either ankles or outer edges of the feet. When you do that, make sure the elbows are on the inside of the knee, not the outside. That's a different kind of a stretch. And then the outer edges of the feet, your fingers can wrap around, or the ankles. Sometimes it feels good to rock a little side to side here. And so I hope you enjoyed that little hip sequence. So mostly all sitting series or laying down series. You can come into a short shavasana here if you like. If you're not already there, just flat stretching the body out. It's so important, even if you do just a little mini practice, to do a little shavasana after to integrate all of the work that you did. So they say that if you do an hour practice, you want a minimum of 5 to 10 minutes of shavasana. If you do a 20-minute practice, I would say 3 to 5 minutes for shavasana, just to do that little integration. So even just a couple minutes just to let everything settle. Take a couple deep breaths. And just take a moment to feel the effects of that practice. Let your body sink into the floor, the mat. Let the back melt, the legs. Relax your jaw. Welcome to stay there as long as you wish. Have a beautiful day. Namaste. Mm-hmm.